count number 1, charge of murder in the first degree after deliberation. We, the jury, find the defendant LETECIA STAUCH guilty of count number 1, murder in the first degree after deliberation.
What can we expect during the trial? Temperance. 3 of Swords reversed. Yeah, she's going bye-byes. I do think she's gonna really try and milk this potential psychosis for all that it's worth, but I don't think it's gonna work. For some reason, Temperance is making me feel like there's gonna be some kind of, well, there already has been delays, right? Something's gonna like make it take longer, or it's just gonna be very slow. I don't know if that means like testimony is gonna be like drawn out and like boring, or it's like a very patient energy. So justice. Yeah, the justice will prevail in the end here, but she's gonna swing at the fences for some kind of disruption. Seeing her like banging her head on the table or something.
With respect to count number 1, charge of murder in the first degree after deliberation, we, the jury, find the defendant LETECIA STAUCH guilty of count number 1, murder in the first degree after deliberation. With respect to count number 2, charge of murder in the first degree, child under 12, by a person in a position of trust, we, the jury, find the defendant LETECIA STAUCH guilty of count number 2, murder in the first degree, child under 12, position of trust. With respect to count number 3, charge of tampering with a deceased human body, we, the jury, find the defendant LETECIA STAUCH guilty of count number 3, tampering with a deceased human body. With respect to count number 4, charge of tampering with physical evidence, we, the jury, find the defendant LETECIA STAUCH guilty of count number 4, tampering with physical evidence.
But we do. Instead of allowing her to take that power of hurting me further, I wanted to tell you this. Let me tell you what Gannon has done. Even to this day, even after you murdered him and she tried to taint any positive image of him, he has caused families and communities to come together. Children and adults have given their life to Christ. He has called unity in times of trial. He is a hero. She even tried to steal that away. A cape, huh? The one image of Gannon that was created for the world. After it went national, TV begging for the return of my son, my hero. How dare her? How truly sick and cruel is she? You stole so much from this world. Gannon's cousins, aunts, uncles, sisters, new siblings, grandparents, and friends are missing a huge portion of their lives without Gannon. And to the community for your countless hours. Tisha, that was her biggest mistake. You underestimated this community and this defensive team, Lorson Ranch. They searched for and fought for Gannon within hours, and they never believed your lies from the moment they started. None of these people ever gave up on him. You never looked. All of these people I will forever hold close to my heart. Always Gannon strong. My G-men forever. Justice has been served today. Your Honor, I pray that you just give her the best sentencing, the longest sentencing that you can. This will not bring my son back, but I can sleep soundly for the first time in 3 years, knowing that you can never harm, this defendant can never harm anyone again, knowing Gannon will always be a true hero in a cape. He will always be my son. That will never be taken away.
But I will say this. Tisha was not the glue to keep everything together. She was not the answer. And this is not a jab, Landon, okay? But Lena still lives with me. Tisha, you were not the answer. Now, Your Honor, if I have any influence on the final sentence for Tisha, first I ask to be stripped of my last name immediately. It's nauseating and infuriating to hear her called Miss Stauch this past 3 years. Secondly, I ask that for every mile she drove Gannon across the country, she spent 1 day in solitary confinement. take us in between 3 and 4 years. After that journey is complete, I recommend her sentence be equal to every year she stripped off of Gannon's life, which for the average male in America right now is 77. So that would give her 66 more years in addition to the 11 he lived. Lastly, for every year of Harley's life that she abusively manipulated that child, she should have an additional year of prison. Adds 21 years to the total. I think without parole, that should suffice. I pray also that Tisha lives the fullest and happiest life that any inmate possibly can live. I also pray that every night before she falls asleep, her last breath before she drifts off sounds just like the breath that she describes Gannon breathing as life left his body. And that all through her sleep, she dreams of all the fun they had at Disney and other places we went throughout our time together. And that every morning as she is about to wake, the end of her dream, the last words Gannon spoke to her, screamed or cried, "Tisha, stop! You're hurting me! Why, Tisha? Daddy, help me! I want my mommy! Why couldn't you let her just be a mama's boy? That's all he wanted to be. He just loved his mama. I wish she would tell me what those words were so I would know." And then as she speaks those words, the sound of a gunshot goes off and she wakes. Every day and night, I pray she relives just those moments and then wakes up to a nice, warm, and kosher breakfast.
And Ms. Stauch, I heard what your attorney had to say, but I need to hear it from you. You have a right to address the court at this point in time regarding any matter that you want me to consider for sentencing. Do you have anything that you wish for me to consider, ma'am? All right.
Actually, there is.
Go ahead.
Consider this or request to admit, reflect a request for her to be placed in San Carlos.
I don't have the ability to do that. DOC determines where its inmates go, and I'm not going to make a recommendation one way or the other. I can, however, say without hesitation that the facts in this case are the most horrific I have ever seen. Your conduct in this case deserves the maximum punishment that I can impose under Colorado law. As such, with respect to the charge of first-degree murder after deliberation, I remand you to the custody of the Colorado Department of Corrections for the remainder of your life with no possibility of parole. With respect to the charge of murder in the first degree of a child under 12 by a person in a position of trust, I remand you to the custody of the Colorado Department of Corrections for the remainder of your life with no possibility of parole. Those two sentences will merge. If you have questions about that, you can ask your attorneys. With respect to the charge of tampering with a deceased human body, I'm also going to sentence you to 12 years, followed by a 3-year period of parole. That sentence is to be consecutive to the life sentences that I've already imposed. With respect to tampering with physical evidence, I'm going to impose an 18-month sentence. That sentence is also consecutive to the sentences for the murder charges that I have imposed. I also understand, with the consent of the prosecution, and I'm assuming no objection from the defense, that I will dismiss all the charges in 20 CR 3170, close that out subject to restitution, give the people 49 days for restitution, 14 days for response, and if there's an issue, we will set it within the 90 days, from